Alright, this video I'd like to say that I promote the techniques of boxing, but not boxing. So I don't promote people to jump into the boxing ring and knock each other out and compete with gloves and or just compete in general to hurt each other, like hitting as hard as they possibly can and things like that. But as far as the techniques of boxing are concerned, I feel they are extremely effective when it comes to like hand-to-hand combat. No kicks, no nothing, no kicking, but just strictly hand-to-hand combat. I feel that their techniques are very, very sound. And I know Bruce Lee, during his time, loved the techniques of boxing. He integrated a lot of the boxing techniques into his art to the point where, to me, there's so much of boxing in his way that I don't understand why people keep talking about Wing Chun when you see so much of the boxing in his expression. But basically, the way that the boxers move and the feinting and the movement, the simplicity, um, the speed, the endurance, the jump roping ability, the footwork, um, it just there's just so much, and their conditioning as far as being able to have strong abs and take a hit and things like that to the stomach and everything. And I mean, everything is very sound. The things that the only thing that are problems when when trying to bring it out to into street combat and survival is just the use of protection and equipment such as the headgear, the boxing gloves, the hand wraps, the rules, no kicking, no elbow, no knee, and all the other stuff. But as far as the punching techniques are concerned, the jab, cross, hook, uppercuts, I mean, they're like mastering those, and time again, they're proven over and over again through the competitions of how effective it is. Now, these people are doing the hard work, and they're they're putting their bodies in jeopardy, their health at risk, to pretty much demonstrate the effectiveness of these techniques. But through observing them and through training intelligently and sparring intelligently, you can see for yourself how effective these techniques are. You don't really have to engage in the sort of competition that they engage in. Even though, even if you do engage in the competitions that they engage in, it's not realistic because they're using all this equipment, all this protection, mouth guards, hand wraps, gloves, all these different rules. But as far as their movement is concerned, I love it. The way that they move, they bob and weave, and they're just very, very good at, footwork, judgment of distance, and things like that. People like Muhammad Ali during his time and Mayweather, they're really good at what they do. And I acknowledge that. Even though I speak against boxing, I do not speak against the techniques of boxing, you know, and how effective that it can be, you know. And I think that everybody has to, in a way, either find a martial art teacher who's actually teaching the arts and not teaching some combat sport that's going to be able to help an individual, you know, discover the true ways of efficient combat, you know. But if they can't find that teacher, they're gonna pretty much have to create their own, like, art. Because if you learn the techniques of boxing, but then you're not a boxer, then it's not boxing anymore. Because how can it be boxing without boxing gloves, without a boxing ring, without engaging in those boxing rules? As soon as you throw one elbow, you throw one knee, you throw a headbutt, you take them to the ground, you kick them. It's not boxing anymore because you broke the rules. So if you are an individual who practices the techniques of boxing, but yet you don't want to follow any of the rules, then you're no longer representing boxing, you're representing something else. Then you're stepping into the realm of the martial arts. And that's what it takes in order to really truly find a way is you're gonna have to create a martial art that is representing the way, that is when you have not yet to meet a teacher who's actually teaching the true martial arts. You know, you're gonna meet a lot of people teaching combat sports, a lot of people teaching boxing, a lot of people teaching kickboxing, a lot of people teaching Muay Thai, a lot of people teaching a form of Taekwondo. You know, everything that has been turned into a sport, you're gonna find a lot of sport teachers, sport coaches. But as you train in these techniques, and then you do not agree to engage in these competitions, but yet you take these techniques and you create your own art, then it becomes a martial art. You know, and then you are heading towards the ultimate way, because you're not confined within any of these rules. You could pull out your gun, you could pull out a knife, you could pull out a stick, you could use the nunchucks, you could kick, you could punch, you could knee, you could elbow, you could bite, you could eye gouge, you could choke, you could do whatever necessary in order to survive. And that's when it becomes an art. You know, but as far as the techniques of boxing are concerned, there's a lot of things that they do that are very, very efficient, very practical, very effective. And then you take those techniques and then you put it to make it become a part of your art. You know, and you'll see that there's effectiveness in pretty much every single, you know, combat sport out there or art out there. Like, there's a lot of things about Chole Fut that are good. I've trained in some techniques in that. A lot of techniques in kickboxing. A lot of techniques in Muay Thai. Techniques in judo. You know, techniques in wrestling. You know, there's gonna be techniques in different disciplines that are gonna be very effective that you can use in order to create your own art, because there's so few arts out there that are truly comprehensive. Now, comprehensive art is something like Bruce Lee's art of Jeet Kune Do, what she labeled. That is a comprehensive art. You don't need to create your own if he was still alive. You just have to practice with him. But since he passed away, you're kind of forced to create your own, because there's nothing else out there that's pure to the arts. Everything has turned into a sport. Boxing is a sport. Wrestling is a sport. Kickboxing is a sport. Muay Thai is a sport. Judo is a sport. Taekwondo is a sport. Everything has been turned into a sport. And because everything has been turned into a sport, and because Bruce Lee is no longer here, you're forced to create your own art unless you meet a teacher who's actually teaching the martial arts for what it is, which is for survival, which is limitless, with its potentials, you know. But once again, I say that boxing, the techniques, I really do like it, and I know that it's really effective, and things of like that. But of course, it is not truly comprehensive, because it is not an art. It's impossible for boxing to be comprehensive, because it's in the realm of sport. Art, in order to be fully comprehensive and fully developed, it needs to be an art. And an art could take decades, centuries to develop, in order to incorporate so much of the whole that you almost have it all, you know. And Bruce Lee's method, for example, pretty much has it all. The only thing that he's really missing is like firearms training and things like that, you know. But you could clearly, easily integrate that into the practice in order to make it more holistic.